morning. I'd like to call the Carson City Board of Equalization meeting to order. It's Tuesday, January 26, 2016 at 9 a.m. Item A, call to order and determination of quorum.
Chairperson Block.
Here.
Member Asner.
Present.
Member Simmons. Member Vivant.
Here.
Member Wilson.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Here. Great, thank you. On to item B, public comment. The public is invited at this time to comment on and discuss any topic that is relevant to or within the authority of the Carson City Board of Equalization. Do we have any public that would like to speak? Seeing none, item C for possible action, approval of minutes, January 19th, 2016. Has everybody had a chance to read those?
Yeah, I found something. The motion on page 2 to accept the recommended deduction has that I am the seconder, and I wasn't. I believe it was Member Vivint. So I would suggest that we amend that to say Member Vivint as opposed to Wilson.
Any other corrections, comments?
The date. On the bottom of the minutes, the date's incorrect.
On page 2, it reads, February 17, 2015.
Yeah, it's just all wrong.
Yeah, it should be January 19. Any other comments? I'd like to entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the minutes from January 19th with the amendments of the dates on the second page and the seconder on the only motion on here to be Member Vivint instead of Member Wilson.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'd second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Now to item D for possible action, petition for review of assessed valuation of Comstock Country RV Resort LLC, Eugene Lapeer, 5400 South Carson Street, APN 009-302-15. Mr. Dolly, our assessor's office, please. Mr. Dolly, do we need to swear them in just before they get up to speak, or do you want to swear everybody in that might testify?
Correct. The assessor's office and the appellants need to swear in that they're going to tell the whole truth.
Okay.
I gather that that's something that our office has customarily done. So if the chair would ask anybody who's going to provide testimony in regard to item D to stand and raise their right hand, I'll issue the oath.
Okay, the assessor's office, anybody that's going to testify, stand and raise your right hand, please.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will be providing in this proceeding is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Great, thank you. Now to the assessor's office.
What's that?
Thank you. Do you want me to do that now? Yes, please. Thank you, members of the board. Kimberly Adams with the Carson City Assessor's Office. Before we get started, I'd like to call your attention to two corrections. Let me go ahead and identify the property first. This is, the appeal you have before you today is for the assessor's parcel number 009-302-15, located at 5400 South Carson Street. On page 11 On sales number 2, the date should read December 14th, 2015 instead of 2016. And then on page 72, I have highlighted the 2 minor corrections on that page as well.
Mr. and Mrs. Lapierre, if you'd like to testify.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record.
Good morning. Judy Lapierre, Comstock Country RV Resort. I'm not going to take very much of your time because basically we're here for, the only raised assessment was for the buildings, not the land. So we're only going to be discussing buildings. This is also our main residence. This is where we live. This is where we do business in this town. And in 2015, we came before you and in regards to the same thing, our buildings, and didn't get much of a opportunity to change anything. So we went to the state. And between the assessor's office, the state board, and us, we all agreed that we would base our base of our homes at 193,504. Everybody seemed to be fine. We established the fact that these buildings were well over 40 years old. They're getting older, they're not getting newer. And the following year, in December 15th, we got our assessment, and it went from 193. Now, we went before the state in like March. So this is in December. So they went from 193,504 to 13,894, which is a 10.5% increase. For various and sundry reasons that I don't think is necessary to put before the board, we were unable to come before the board at that time, so we did not file a protest. But this year, it went from the 193,504 to the 213,894 to this year 249,752. Now that is from December 15th to December 15th to December 1 year that we did that, December 14th to December 15th. Now we are being raised a total for that 12 months from December 14th to December 15th, on the assessor's portion, we're being raised 27.2%. Right now, we're being raised just this 1 year, 16.7% on 40-year-old businesses, and of that, well over 1,800 square feet of those buildings are our own home. So I just would like to ask any of you, have you been raised in 18 months 27.2% on your house? I'm not talking about your land, I'm talking your house. And I just feel that that is way, way out of portion. I don't know, I've looked up some of the other businesses in town. They have not been raised this amount that would compare with ours. And don't forget, we're only talking buildings here. And I just feel like we should be able to go back down to what the state agreed to, what they agreed to, is the 193,504 for our buildings. Next year, they're going to get an opportunity to reassess our land. And if this is the way they're going to reassess our 40-plus-year-old buildings, then, and they're block, they're not like fancy or anything, these are block buildings. All we're saying is, why do I have to come every year? I mean, is every single person on their home getting raised every 18 months 27.2% on their home? Do you have any questions?
Any questions for the, well, we should probably let staff go through their findings as well, and then we'll open it up for questions for both parties.
Oh, do we retrieve any cap for our home on the property?
10% of your property is at the 3% tax cap, yes.
Okay, and that's the building?
That's
That's our home.
your residence, yes.
Okay. So that's with a 10% cap for our home?
3%.
3%
10%
cap.
of the property.
But 10% of the property isn't being raised, so 90% just got raised 27.2%.
The cap pertains to your property taxes, not your assessment. The assessment has to be under the guidelines of the statutes. The taxes are capped, not assessments.
The other thing that I'd like just to inform each and every one of you, every time your assessment, and you guys are on the board, so you're probably aware of this, but every time the assessment, not whether your tax dollars go up, but every time your assessment goes up and they ever take that cap off, you will be taxed according to your assessment at that point. And we're all going to get a surprise here, not just, if the economy keeps coming, we're all going to get a big surprise on our property taxes here very shortly. So I'm just complaining always about my assessment. I'm not worried about the dollar value in the sense that it's the assessment that is going to make the difference in all of our property values. Am I correct? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Judith, and just for that cap to change, it's going to have to go to the legislature, so that's something far different from what this, what the county assessor
But I'm
does.
just saying it will happen, Jeff.
Yeah, well, I understand that viewpoint as well. So if we could go on to staff for what you found.
Thank you, members of the board. Again, my name is Kimberly Adams with the Carson City Assessor's Office. The 2016-17 taxable land value is currently valued at $5 per square foot for a taxable land value of $1,947,131. The improvements are based on replacement cost new, less depreciation, and currently have a taxable value of $713,577. The 2016-17 total taxable value is $2,660,709. This is a decrease of $5,394 from the pre-obsolescence 2015-16 improvement value of $718,971. Based on the market conditions, all commercial and industrial property received 15% economic obsolescence in 2015 for the 15-16 valuations. According to current market data and information provided by local commercial real estate agents, vacancy rates have been decreasing since 2013. Because the market conditions have continued to improve in recent years, the assessor's office could not rationalize applying any economic obsolescence to commercial or industrial properties for the 2016-17 year. Mr. Lapierre states in his appeal that the full cash value of his property is less than the computed taxable value. Mr. Lapierre provided a copy of his assessment notice that was recently mailed to him this past November. Mr. Lapierre requests that his improvement value be lowered to $611,126. Mr. Lapierre did not provide any supporting documentation to support his opinion of value. The increase of value that you see is due to the subject property not receiving any economic obsolescence in 2016 or 17. The assessor's office currently has approximately 50 commercial or industrial properties receiving some sort of obsolescence. However, these properties provided the assessor's office with detailed income statements or recent appraisals that supported the reductions in valuations. The assessor's office has provided you with recent local vacant commercial land sales, which support a price per square foot value of $10.28. Vacant commercial land listings support a land value of $7.54 per square foot. We included a mobile home RV park sale located in Washoe County. The Chisholm property sold for almost $5 million, has approximately the same number of spaces as the subject, though they do not provide, though they do provide spaces to both mobile homes and RVs. The property borders the Truckee River, and additional structures and amenities do vary from the subject. The assessor's office also found 2 listings of mobile home and RV parks, one in Gardnerville near Topaz and the other in Sparks. Both the properties differ greatly from the subject and could be viewed less desirable based on the location of the subject property. They show an average listing price of $360.83 per square foot. And I'd also like to add that the assessor's office currently revalues all land values on an annual basis. We don't, we physically come out and view the property once every 5 years, but all land values are reevaluated on an annual basis, and all improvements are recosted on an annual basis. And I'm here for any questions if you have them.
Okay, do you have any questions for the assessor's office at this point? And then we'll open it back up for the appellant. Okay, just for clarification, the cap, the 3% cap is on your primary residence. There's also a 10% cap on non-primary residents as far as the tax rate?
No. So if you take 100% of the improvements of the property, 10% of those improvements are receiving the 3% cap.
Right.
The 90% is at whatever the alternate cap is, which cannot exceed 8%.
It's the 8%.
Yes.
So the values thrown out to us of 27% increases, I'm confused by that. Do you? Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the assessor?
I guess if you were to compare the 611 to what the value was in 2015-16 and compare that to the current valuation, I haven't done the math. That may be 27%, I'm not sure.
Okay, but the cap still applies at 8% for 90% of the property, which is not their primary residence, and a 3%
Correct.
cap on the 10%.
Correct.
Go ahead, Mallory.
The difference between $611,126 and what it's currently valued at $713,577 is actually only 14.36%.
Any more questions for the assessor's office? Okay, do we have questions for the appellant? Come on up, Judith, and,
I'm going to explain to you how I got 27.2%.
okay.
We're not talking land values. She's giving square footage. We are not talking land. We're talking building values here, and that's all we're talking. Last year, it's very easy math. If you take last year's, I wrote some notes here, so I have to take, if you take the 193,504, it comes out to the following year when they went 213,894. This is buildings only. That's 10.5%. That was last December. This December, for the 16-17, it went from the 213,890 to 249. That's 16.2%. If you add the two together, within 18 months, it's 27.2%. On the buildings, now you guys are getting confused with land and buildings. If you take each one of these and you look at the buildings and see what they've increased each year for the last 2 years, it comes out to 27.2%
So
increase.
Are you referring to only your residents?
I'm talking about the entire increase.
The value of the structures is some $600,000 and $700,000 is what we're looking at, not, because you're saying something about,
I'm only
100
talking, if you look at these, it's got land and buildings.
If I could assist, Judith is referring to her 2014-15 valuation that the state board approved. So if you, she's talking about assessed value too, just so I can clarify.
Okay. I'm talking 15-16 to 16-17. It went up 16.2% in 1 year. From last December to this December. That didn't have anything to do with the state. That was 16.2%.
Correct, but the 193,000 is your 14.
That was the year before.
Correct, and that's what I was
And it went from the
clarifying.
year before to 213, so the year before went 10.5. So within an 18-month period of getting these, it went up to 27.2%. Because it was in the middle of the year that the state gave us back that you 6 months later added it back in, and then 12 months later added it back in again.
Well, it's a question and a comment, Mrs. Lapierre. I, as a member of this board, would have appreciated having that information given when you made your appeal. Right now, we're all scurrying around trying to figure out what you were trying to present. Had you given us some information ahead of time that could have been in our packet, that we could have analyzed that, digested it, it would have been very, very helpful. So I would say in the future, if you are going to be making your appeals, I would highly recommend that you don't wait
appreciate
till the
that.
last minute to give us that information.
Okay. I do appreciate that.
Okay.
Any other comments?
So typically, as you heard the assessor's office indicate, if you want something to go down, you can provide an appraisal, you can provide your tax return, and I think at one point we asked for the tax returns.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys willing to provide your tax returns?
I will not do that.
Okay.
I will not do that.
So-
I feel that that is between us and the IRS. I wouldn't give it to a real estate person if I was selling my property. I don't think that is a public knowledge.
It's used to determine your rents and to see if things have come down. That's the reason we ask for them. So it's not like we're going to be doing
Well,
anything other than analyzing
I've
your tax
lived in
returns.
this town a long time, and nothing stays a secret here.
With this
So-
board, it would. That's our job.
Okay.
Excuse me, Denise Gilat with the Carson City Assessor's Office. And actually, we wouldn't even need tax returns. We would be more than willing to look at income and expense statements. If you could just provide them on the business, maybe 3 years of income and expense and then we could keep them. We do have a policy in place to keep all those documents confidential. We would make sure that they were not released to the public and no one had access to those outside of
I
this
just
board.
look at it, I mean, if you have the Secretary of State of the United States and you have the military and you have the VA that are hacked into, how do you protect anybody? I don't even use a computer because I'm that old and that untrustworthy. So if I'm not using a computer, I'm certainly, and I don't do online banking, I don't do any of that, I'm not that trustworthy as you're the younger generation is that you're comfortable in that. So I'm not. So, and I'm just saying, it's really, to me, it's very basic when you go from one year to the next, that you go before the state, which is a lot of trouble and it's a lot of money, because you don't go to the state by yourself. You have to always have an attorney to go to the state. So when you go to the state to ask for a reduction, it's expensive, it's a lot of trouble, and all I'm saying is that if you can see that one year it was, 213, then it went to, and now 2 years later it's 249, you can see that the buildings at even taking this year, 16.2%, I don't think any of you got raised 16.2% on your home. And that's what I'm asking for, is a little relief on that.
You're
So-
asking for relief on the valuation of the structures only,
Right,
not the land
right.
or
And
anything else.
it's dollar-wise, if I'm not mistaken, Dave, it's not going to make, at this point, much difference in dollar, is it?
It doesn't make any.
It doesn't change
Okay,
your,
so we're not talking dollars, we're talking assessment. And like Judd said, you got to go to well, we're having a legislature in January.
oh, boy.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I provide one clarification?
Absolutely.
And that just has to do with respect to any records that the appellant chose to offer. Any records that would be submitted to this body would become public records. Certainly, I would expect there to be some efforts to protect private information through redaction, the redaction of Social Security numbers, things of that nature. But anything that this body saw would, by law, have to be available to the public. And even if it went to the assessor's office, that becomes a public record and subject to the public records law. I don't know off the top of my head whether we would have grounds to maintain the confidentiality of of that kind of information, but I do want to clear up any misconception by the public that you get to see things that the public doesn't get to see, because we would be required to disclose that.
And Jason, in a case like this, if they presented a hard copy P&L, it's going to go in the file, but it's not going to be really public record until someone requests a copy of that, or it goes to the state board.
Right, and it wouldn't be like it would be disseminated as long as it remained in the assessor's office, but a member of the public could request that information, and unless there was some legal basis to maintain its confidentiality, it would have to be disclosed.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Lapierre,
Yes. Thank
how are you today?
Gene Lapierre, Comstock Country RV Resort. Ma'am, back to your answer, why didn't we bring more stuff? I explained, I'm the one who filled out the form with Dave. The reason I filled out right in front of Dave, I said, Dave, I'm here because of 214, 215. He knew it. Well, he ought to explain it to you, not me. I'm the taxpayer. I'm out here defending my taxes. I explained to him, now here I get a 215 to 216. He knew it. I don't need to put it in a form. I'm a real private person. Thank you, Mr. Woodbury, about what you said, because that's the truth. I've been here 48 years and been in business all my time here, and I understand what happens. Anyway, so back to why didn't we tell you? He should explain it. That's what I explained to him. He wrote where my slip is crossed out. That's his rating. That's not mine. So I explained it to him. Why he didn't explain to you, I don't know. All I know is 27.2%. Take your time. I have nothing but time. I'll go with my Judge Fondy, who passed away on us yesterday, but I got time. Go and do some due diligence. See if my wife's telling you the truth. Lower my problem. That's all we're asking for. 27.2 in 18 months, that's crazy.
May I say something?
Pardon? Yes.
What we're saying to you is the burden of proof is up to you to provide. It's not something that Dave, because you told him, is going to tell us. So if you want something lowered, we'd be happy to help you. And, everybody will make their decision from here. But if you want something lowered, you have to provide documentation.
Okay. Nowhere did I see any documentation, but that's okay. Let's take our time, figure it all out. He'll figure it for you and tell you it was 27.2. That's all you need. Next week's fine with me. But I don't need to come up here and start saying that. It's a done deal. Between him and I, it was a done deal. That's the reason I'm here. Now I do the same old thing, go to the state. The state gets all mad at everybody, especially our little Carson City board. Why is the Lapierre's here I don't understand it. Is it personal vendetta? I don't know that. But I don't like it. And 27.2, none of you would like that on your home either. And that's where I'm at, and I'll take any answers, and we'll go from there.
Mr. Lapierre, when I made the comment that I did, I was trying to indicate to you that it would have been very, very helpful for me as a board member to have known ahead of time some of the things that your wife said, for you to just outline it in letter form. There were things that she brought up that I wasn't aware of. And maybe I would have liked to take some time to investigate that and so forth. So to come here and not have some of that available to us, we're kind of caught unaware, and we want to do the right thing for the taxpayer, but we have to have that information.
Take your time, check it all out, what we just told you, under oath, and you'll come up with 27.2, then make your decision. Take a week, a month, I don't care. But take your time. Something happened between Dave and I. It didn't get to you. Okay, like I say, he's the one we're paying for. He could have put in there that I explained it to him. Okay, that's fine too. But go back, reevaluate if you need time. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem saying I got to do this, this, and this. I didn't know that. All I know is, here, give me more money. 27 point. No, that's not nice. I don't like that.
Okay, Gene.
Thank you.
We talked about your taxable, the tax is not going to increase in this thing, so we're not taking your money. With what you said with Mr. Dolly, you're the appellant, you need to fill out the paperwork and give us that information. You know the drill, you've been here before, you're right. We've also said that, we've also agreed, at least you and I have agreed in passing that you're a developer and this is the Board of Equalization. And quite frankly, there may never ever be any consensus between both parties. You don't want to pay the tax, you need to be, it's a whole litany of things. So we understand that. So it's not a vendetta of this board
Let me
against
explain.
you or the Lapeers.
I do pay my taxes.
Well, I understand.
I have no problem.
I did not-
I'm here
I did not
protecting
say
a
that.
27.2% rise. That's not what I like.
I understand, Mr.
Okay,
Lapierre, so I
and
just wanted to
don't compare my
clarify.
property with Washoe. I build in Washoe County. It's 35% higher if you build a home in Reno than here. So, I mean, all this paperwork they gave me, it says, and something sold in Washoe, good
Yes,
golly.
I understand.
And why didn't they use the BLM property I just bought 18 months ago next to my property? If they're talking about values or square footage and, I don't know. Anyway, take your time, figure it out. I appreciate, and give me a fair shake. That's all I'm asking.
Well, and I appreciate you coming today.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions for the appellant or the assessor's office? This comment from the assessor's office.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for my voice. I've been sick for the last few days. If you would please turn to page number 82. This breaks down all of the improvements that are on this particular property. Whether this property is residential, commercial, industrial, it's all taxed the same. The state of Nevada says that you have to tax it based on replacement cost new, less depreciation. So it doesn't matter if it's 1,400 square feet or 3,000 square feet, if it's stucco, if it's hardboard, we are going to tax it based on what the replacement cost is on it. If you look in the fourth column, it says year. Those are the years for which the building was built or the improvement was put on that property. It's getting depreciation from that year. Every structure in the state of Nevada is being taxed this way unless they provide an income approach statement to us. And we can justify a lower value based on the income approach. When we went to the state board, there was an issue with the clubhouse, with the mixed retail. There was an addition that was put on. They went out, the state board asked us to go out and remeasure it and change the year of the structure, and we did. We changed that year to 1978. We've not changed anything. We've not changed anything on the year, on the size, or anything. It's strictly based on replacement cost new. That replacement cost new we get from Marshall and Swift yearly. That's what the Nevada law tells us we have to do. The only reason this went up is because we removed the 15% economic obsolescence on the commercial and industrial properties in Carson City. We have the market data to support that there was not a need for the additional 15% obsolescence. So we removed it. As it was stated before, we did receive a number of income statements. We were able to apply additional obsolescence to those particular commercial and industrial buildings. We're not doing anything different for Mr. Lapierre that I wouldn't do for my own mom, that I wouldn't do for the mayor. We tax everybody the same in Carson City. That's what Nevada law tells us we have to do. That's what we do. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Assessor. Any other questions from the board? Mallory?
I have a question for the assessor's office. I feel like this may be kind of a dumb question, but I went through and I added the land value and the improvement value, and I got a value of $2,660,708, not $709. And I'm wondering if I'm missing something.
No, unfortunately, the computer's going to do that.
It's just a rounding issue.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right. Like to entertain a motion. Okay.
I move to accept the Carson City Assessor's total assessed value of $931,248 as currently recorded for both land and structures on the 2016-2017 secured tax roll on parcel number 009-302-15, located at 5400 South Carson Street, Carson City, Nevada.
Seconded.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we need to do a discussion on the motion?
It's up to you.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Thank you for coming, Mr. and Mrs. Lapierre. We always enjoy seeing you. Have a great day. Now on to item,
Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
could you remind Mr. and Mrs. Lapierre?
Oh, I'm sorry, you can appeal to the state board, and the date of that appeal,
Deadline is March 10th.
March 10th is the deadline for the appeal for the state board. What's that?
Do I have a form today? I can fill it out. Well, I'm gone tomorrow for 6 weeks.
I,
Fill out a form today.
is the form on the State Board of Equalization's
It's
website?
correct, yeah, the state board handles all that, or the State Department of Taxation does that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, folks. Okay, item E for possible action, discussion as to the date of the next scheduled meeting currently set for February 2nd, 2016.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave Dolly. We would like to, with your indulgence, cancel the meeting for the February 2nd and February 10th and try to schedule the remaining appeals, February 9th, and schedule the remaining appeals for 9 a.m. on February 16th.
Anybody have an issue with that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion.
I move that we schedule for our next meeting to be February 16th, 2016 at 9 a.m.
Motion?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Now on to item F, public comment. I see some people in the audience, so the public is invited at this time to comment on any matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item of the agenda. Do we have any public comment? Okay, seeing none. Item G for possible action on adjournment. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
We have a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Meeting's adjourned.